Hello, my name's Ariadne and I'm starting a YouTube channel, which means I'm going to share about my professional life. And today it's regarding a book that I just published called Creative Care, an Artist in Healthcare. And in the description, maybe you youngins will tell me what I'm doing right or wrong about using this format. But since it's just out and available on Amazon, I thought I'd give a real quick overview and read a piece from this publication. So I'm a visual artist. I've worked in healthcare for I think it's a decade now, and I'm very interested in promoting this work for creatives who are interested in service as part of their work. And so I compiled my experiences from a lot of different places and combined them into this first book. The idea was to also include opinions and suggestions for materials use and safety, and that ended up becoming its whole another thing. So there's a companion book, same cover, different background, called Creative Care Projects, and that's where you'd find more of the hands-on. Any of this can be found on creativecarellc.com, the website that corresponds. So that being said, so okay if I just read the first chapter, Art is Necessity. Arts and health is a broad and growing academic discipline and field of practice dedicated to using the power of arts to enhance human health and well-being in the diverse institutional and community contexts. And that is a definition from the National Organization for Arts and Health from 2017. Chapter 1, Art is Necessity. Have they told you what's wrong with me? Henry asked. They hadn't specifically, and yet as a resident in the memory unit of Sanford Care Center Vermilion, I knew he was living with a form of dementia or Alzheimer's. He's in his late 70s and reminds me a lot of my father, with a trim gray beard and gentlemanly old world manners. I introduced myself as Ari, and when asked him his name, he answered grandly, Sir Henry, introducing me to the man and hinting at his wit. During the first weeks of my joining Sanford Art Vermilion, we had spotty conversations about our preference for art supplies. He made a simple journal out of corrugated purple cardstock and folding drawing paper. There were weeks Henry was willing to draw in his journal, and other weeks I used the purple book to write down things that he said. He's a still waters runs deep kind of person, and one must listen closely to hear some of what's being stored in his mind. I haven't arrived yet, he said, after just sitting down at the art-making table one day. I get that. My body often arrives before my thoughts join me. On a good day, he blurted out 4 lines of poetry, and I caught enough phrases to identify, Oh, Ship of State by Longfellow. Put some energy into your words, he said a month later, as I recounted his recitation with Ellen, a certified nursing assistant in the memory unit. And then Henry demonstrated, fist raised, weaving slightly over his walker with a wry smile. Fear not each sudden sound and shock. 'Tis the wave and not the rock. 'Tis but the flapping of the sail, and not a rent made by the gale. His delight was a gift to witness. Henry's drawings tended to be abstract combinations of vertical and horizontal lines with some shading. He's willing to share some of what he can about his process, of what he's thinking about when he draws. Essentially, they may act as schematics or diagrams of how he's retrieving information from his mind. For as long as I can remember, image making through drawings and paintings has been my primary means of expression and catharsis. I process information using basic tools of color, symbols, and the physical act of marks on the surface. The stylistic term for this might be autobiographic narrative paintings. A Child's Design Sense was a series of paintings I made during grad school based on my young son's first attempts at writing his name, bearing witness his transition from expressive marks with a crayon to more intentional lines becoming symbolic stand-ins for his name and names of other things, provided me with years of fodder in the studio. What I hadn't expected was there come a time when the byproducts of my art making, visual acuity, uncertainty, and playfulness, would be of service to others and prove congruent in a healthcare setting. This is a good thing. The world of a professional artist is often a solitary and sophistic experience. I'm a painter and art educator who started working in healthcare environments 3 years ago after my parents passed away from varying forms of cancer. I was hired as art program coordinator of the new Sanford Arts Vermillion program, where our primary purpose is to support client wellness through arts and arts activities. Clients include residents, patients, family, staff, and volunteers. We modeled Sanford Arts Vermillion after arts program coordinated by expressive arts therapist Jessie Parks at Sanford Cancer Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Please note the following distinction. A terminal degree of Master of Fine Arts provides fine artists with training to support creative expression with participants, whereas a creative or expressive arts therapist with mental health components to their education use art to elicit measurable therapeutic results with their encounters. In this country, art was first used for rehabilitation purposes in treating World War I soldiers and veterans. Today, according to Naj Wyckoff in Culture of Care for Americans for the Arts, 50% of U.S. hospitals have arts programs that include permanent displays of art, performances in public spaces, bedside activities, and art activities for healthcare staff. There is a rich and growing body of research connecting arts and healthcare programs to improve quality of care for patients, their families, and even medical staff. Studies have proven that integrating the arts into healthcare settings helps to cultivate a healing environment, support the mental, physical, and emotional recovery of patients, communicate health and recovery information, and foster a positive environment for caregivers that reduce stress and improves workplace satisfaction and employee retention. And that's for the Society for Arts and Healthcare in 2009. I experience a great sense of privilege and adventure when working in medical facilities with people across the whole life spectrum. Children and teens in hospitals, teens receiving care for behavioral challenges, patients and their families in cancer treatment centers, caregivers, special needs adults, to name a few. The arts activities are created out of the necessity of my participants. Their needs are the same as mine, to be safe, to belong, and feel respected. People often welcome the invitation to pick up a paintbrush or polymer clay for a benign, creative moment with an artist. I keep in mind that projects must have a high probability of successful completion, delivered at varying speeds and allowing for individualized expression. And remember what the writer Maya Angelou told us. People will forget what you said, forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. One Saturday afternoon at the Memory Unit, we were working on a watercolor and pastel project based on Wassily Kandinsky's 1913 color study, Squares with Concentric Circles. About a half hour in, I looked up from the table to hear a CD, Sing Along for the Elderly, number 4 playing, people chatting, singing, people working with clay, others painting, and another working on a puzzle, sitting quietly with closed eyes. I counted 11 people, residents and staff from 20 years old to those in their 80s, around a single large table. Art got us all to the table and gave us a common language to navigate our creativity. I'm here for those who want extra support. One more entry into Henry's purple journal came back after watching him stare at his drawing for a long time. On a black sheet of cardstock, he had made several deliberate horizontal and vertical lines in white colored pencil, framing the outside edges of the page. And I asked, "What's going on?" "I'm waiting for a first spontaneous mark," he said. Oh boy, that's the kind of self-awareness you'd hear in an advanced painting critique or an artist studio. And it's the kind of moment that makes it a joy to keep listening. This was first published in 2013 in the High Plains Art Magazine, page 27. And the pseudonyms are embedded to preserve anonymity. Thanks.